In this week's EV news, UK ministers plan to subsidise EV loans to boost sales. Public charging prices are labelled a tax on living greener. Elon Musk is putting Britons off buying Teslas. And Genesis scraps petrol and diesel models to focus purely on EV and hybrid. Welcome back to another EV news. If you're here because you're subscribed with notifications turned on, then thank you very much for your continued support. For everyone else, over 70% of people that watch videos on this channel are not subscribed. It's absolutely free of charge, and if you subscribe with notifications turned on, it makes sure you'll never miss out on a video. So do me a favour, click the subscribe button, turn notifications on, and make sure you join me going forward. I'd also appreciate it if everyone watching this video could click the like button. It really helps convince the YouTube algorithm that these videos are worth watching and helps spread the word to more people. If you have any EV related news articles that you'd like me to cover in these videos going forward, please submit details of them at dothisnext.co.uk and I'll do my best to feature them in videos going forward. Now then, let's get on with the news, shall we? And first up then, the UK government is developing plans to boost EV sales by subsidising consumer loans. This initiative could involve guaranteeing loans to reduce monthly payments, making EVs more affordable compared with petrol and diesel vehicles. Discussions with the car finance sector are ongoing to offer low interest or interest-free loans, potentially by underwriting private sector loans. And this move aims to address the shortfall in EV sales. Now, we don't need to talk about the percentages sold and all that again. We've done that to death. And if you do want to catch up on that, check out the previous news videos for this year. But they're currently below official targets, as we know, and that's particularly in the private consumer market. Fleets are buying EVs, private consumers not particularly buying brand new ones, probably really though opting to buy used instead. Now, I really struggle with the idea of using public money to subsidise car finance. I don't really believe that that could be the best use of funds. Handing cheap loans out really just lets the manufacturers charge what they like for their new cars. If you're not having to worry as much about the interest rate on the money you're using to borrow it, then you can spend a little bit more or a little bit more than you would if the car was actually good value in the first place. And ultimately, the manufacturers might benefit out of this, but I really don't think the consumer would. To illustrate my point, let's have a look at a deal you can get right now on the Dacia Spring, the cheapest new EV you can currently buy in the UK. And they're currently offering interest-free finance on the Spring when you buy a brand new one. And it sounds like a good deal in theory, so ignoring the lower spec models and stuff, the top spec, the Extreme 65, you can buy that, or you can get it on finance for £201 down and £201 a month on 0% PCP. And the total amount repayable under that agreement is £16,995 if you pay the final payment and keep the car. So that is the cash price of the car. So yes, it's 0% interest, all good. You know, people are a big fan of that, not paying interest when they borrow money. Fantastic. All well and good. Until you realise that you can go along to a Dacia dealer in the Midlands and you can buy a pre-registered Spring Extreme 65 for £12,995. And actually it's an even better deal because that includes metallic paint, which is a £650 extra. So if you compare the amount you'd pay for that car buying it pre-registered, it's never actually been used, right? It's just been registered. You're saving over £4,000. So actually, if you compare that to the 0% finance, that's the amount essentially you're paying in interest. If you then, instead of taking that 0% deal, got a bank loan for the 13 grand to buy the pre-registered car, you're going to pay less interest, unless you have a really bad credit rating and therefore get a really high interest rate. You're going to pay less interest than you would effectively getting the 0% finance. Now, this has nothing to do with government subsidies. These are deals that are being offered by the private sector at the moment. There's no government involvement in there at all. But this kind of scenario, I think, is exactly what will happen with government-backed loans. List prices will be inflated, discounts will be offered less often, and really, the only winner here is going to be the manufacturer, not the consumer, and it's going to be the government, or let's be honest, you and I, that are paying for that. And so I don't think that's the way to go. But that's just my opinion. Let me know what you think. Do you think government subsidised loans for new EVs are a good thing? Or do you share some of the concerns that I've raised here? Let me know what you think. Next up, then, this article entitled "A Tax on Living Greener: How Can Britain Make Charging EVs Cheaper?" Now, there's a link to any of the stories that we feature here in the comments. But what this addresses then is the disparity in EV charging access and costs between the households that have off-street parking and those that don't. Now, approximately 9.3 million households do not have private parking, and so if they were to use EVs, they would need to rely on public chargers. And as we know, they're often much more expensive and less convenient than charging at home. And this then creates a financial burden on those that can't actually have a home charger. And you could say, therefore, that that is a tax on living greener. And to meet the UK's goal of banning new petrol and diesel cars by 2035, we know that we need much more charging infrastructure. Now, I don't think that this article is particularly telling us anything we don't already know. Public charging is, in a lot of cases, very expensive. And if you're relying on it as your sole source of charging your vehicle, the economics are questionable at best. I did a video on this when I did the John O'Groats to Land's End trip in the Polestar 2. There's a link to that in the description if you want to have a look at the summary, but the cost was actually quite staggering when you added it all up. The cost of public charging that entire way was quite significant. And yes, there are ways to make public charging cheaper. You can shop around, you can get subscriptions, all that stuff. But at the end of the day, if you live without home charging and your nearest chargers are quite expensive, you will find yourself using them and you will find yourself at a disadvantage. Nobody is going to regularly drive way out of their way to use cheaper chargers. So if you're stuck in a situation where the ones that are really close to your house or the lamppost chargers on your street or whatever are really expensive, that is what you will end up using. There's no doubt about that. And I think, realistically, this is where subsidies should be deployed. I'm not on about handing Shell a load of money to install chargers on streets. I mean establishing a charging network, primarily of like destination chargers, lamppost chargers, that kind of stuff, in public spaces, whether that be on residential streets, in council-owned car parks, those kind of areas where we could go beyond this sort of commercial offering and think more about actual enablement. Almost like Charge Place Scotland used to be, right? I'm not saying put free charges everywhere because look how badly that went, right? But offer an incentive for people to make the switch. A network run with, as I say, enablement in mind rather than profit, providing charging at a rate that's more comparable to home charging and doesn't need to make a profit to be successful. Don't you agree that would be a better use of public money than just handing out a load of cheap loans to let people buy cars? And realistically, all that does is subsidise car manufacturers. Work to remove these barriers to adoption by taking away the charging worries of all of those without off-street parking and make it much easier and cheaper for them to charge the cars. And, well, the market progresses and cheaper EV models enter the market anyway, and so the actual purchasing of the cars will start to take care of itself, especially as the used market matures. I mean, it's just my take on things, and I'd be interested to hear what you think, but I do think that the way we're going about things at the moment with some of these public charger installs is just going to lead to high prices and not necessarily a great situation for those that can't charge at home. Next up then is Elon Musk putting British people off buying Teslas. A recent survey by electrifying.com reveals that nearly 60% of UK respondents were deterred or are deterred from purchasing Tesla vehicles due to Elon Musk's behaviour. The survey indicates a significant shift in consumer preferences, with many opting for electric vehicles from Chinese brands over Tesla. Despite Tesla's pivotal role in promoting electric vehicle adoption, the UK market is becoming increasingly competitive, offering more choices and aggressive pricing. Now, I don't think I want to get into this one too much. Try to stray away from politics on this channel where possible. Try to bring you, factual accounts of things, and don't tend to get too involved in politics because it's a bit of a swamp. But I'm sure you'll all let me know in the comments what you think very passionately about this. I think there's more to a company than its CEO. I'm not sure cancelling an entire company just because you think Elon's an idiot achieves very much. But then these days, all bets are off when it comes to that thing, aren't they? Is it possible that actually He doesn't have an awful lot to do with Elon Musk, and actually that bit about there's more and more EVs on the market, they're more competitive, there's more features, they differentiate themselves better, is the real reason why people might be turning away from Tesla? I don't know, but I'm sure you'll let me know what you think. And finally, premium manufacturer Genesis will become an EV-only brand by this summer, although hybrid powertrains will return to their lineup around 2027. The current models, including the G70, G80, GV70 and GV80, will be phased out as stock depletes. Their future lineup will feature several new all-electric models, such as an electrified G80, a new GV70 and the GV60 on a dedicated EV platform. Plans do also include hybrid technology and a high-performance EV, the GV60 Magma. With this shift, Genesis aims to solidify its presence in the premium electric vehicle market, establishing more dealerships in the UK. The brand, which was introduced to the UK market in 2021, already has 80% of its sales being pure electric. Now, I don't know about you, but Genesis is one of these brands that I almost forget exists. I hardly ever see their models on the road, even though they do shift quite a few, and I couldn't tell you where their dealerships are. I know that they're the premium offering from Hyundai, but they don't appear to be sold alongside them in every dealership across the country, so they must have a select number of dealerships somewhere, but it is one of those that I don't know, I almost forget they exist. But some of their offerings do look pretty impressive. It's definitely a more upmarket version of the sort of the equivalent underpinning Hyundai models, and therefore I can see why they might be appealing. And it's very interesting indeed that they are already a strong EV brand, strong enough to phase out the pure petrol and diesel models and bring us EVs and hybrids only. What do you think? Are you more likely to consider a Genesis model now that they're looking at going EV only? Let me know what you think in the comments. But that brings us to the end of another EV news. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please do make sure you click the like button. And if you're new here, subscribe so that you don't miss out on the next one. If you have EV related news articles you'd like to see me feature in these videos, submit the details at dothisnext.co.uk and I'll try to feature them going forward. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.